Welcome to the County Manager's Report. I'm Lloyd Higuera. With me is Douglas County Manager Steve Mokrohiski, and happy birthday, Steve. I'm late,
thanks.
but happy birthday.
That's all right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
How did your birthday go? Did you have a good time?
It was very nice. Yep. Got some nice cards from my daughters, and just celebrated another year older. So
okay.
Happy to be alive.
There you go. All right. Well, we are going to talk about the May 2nd meeting of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. And let's begin with the roads. Commissioners approved an $86,845 contract with Loomis and Associates for engineering design services for the reconstruction of Waterloo Lane. Can I cheer now?
Well, not quite yet,
No.
because it's not reconstructed. We have a lot of work to do, but it is
the worst road in Douglas County.
The poster child for the worst road in Douglas County. I think it has a pavement condition index of like 9.
That's pretty bad.
On a scale of 100, and so that's a failed road. And I think anyone who travels on Waterloo Lane knows the challenges that we have. You know, there are challenges in addition to just the condition of the road and the pavement. You know, obviously a lot of potholes, and the pavement is in poor repair. But it's also got some alignment issues, some really sharp turns. It's a narrow road. There's not a significant shoulder on that road. So this, will allow us to go out and do the engineering, design, planning work for the reconstruction, get a good estimate for what the cost for reconstruction will be, and then we'll look at options for the realignment of Waterloo, although I think that's unlikely because the cost and the easement requirements from private property would be a challenge. So anyways, we want to pursue this because it's becoming a safety issue.
Sure.
The cost at this point, we believe, to reconstruct Waterloo is probably in the range of $1.5 to $2 million just to reconstruct the existing road. So it's a start. Let's not cheer yet, but it's a start. To look at what the ultimate cost will be to reconstruct it.
I've always thought of Waterloo between 88 and Centerville as kind of a farm road, because with those very dramatic turns, and it's also a great opportunity to kind of enjoy a trip back in time.
That's right. Yes.
In the Carson Valley, and you've got great views of the mountains.
It's true.
So I always just kind of take it slow when I have to use that road and just kind of enjoy it all.
Yeah. Well, it might be a dirt road pretty soon if we just let it go. But you're right. And the challenge there is, while it is like an old country road, it serves in that purpose. People don't use it in that way. I mean, it's typically gets heavier traffic, particularly from tourists, because if you go on Google Maps and you route, and you're trying to get to Lake Tahoe, that's the primary connector from 395 to Highway 88. And
somebody has to talk to Google.
Right. We're right, and we have restricted truck traffic on that road, so that is one thing that we did, and we also reduced the speed on the road from 45 to 35, which 35 is still, fairly fast for that road. So anyways, some challenges there, but we'll move forward and see what we have for a cost to redesign it.
Well, it's nice that the first steps are being taken.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Commissioners also in the road arena, commissioners directed staff to reject all bids for the 2013 road seal and overlay projects and rebid the projects to use available increased funding. We heard about that on the last program.
Yeah, and we got 2 bids. One was low, and there was about almost $200,000, about $180,000 difference between the 2 bids, so fairly significant. It was difficult for us really to determine whether one was high or one was low, because typically if you get more than 2, you can weight them and see whose are maybe more accurate. The other issue that we had, and the primary issue, is the fact that after we had gone out to bid on this project, we had reworked the 5-year transportation plan with some additional funding for preventative maintenance. So we actually have, and this is before we identified an additional $1 million per year for preventative road maintenance. So we identified that we have about $500,000 to spend. So we're going to go out, rework the project and the scope of that work. So what the board ultimately did here is they rejected all the bids. We're going to increase the scope of work for the project and then rebid it to fully utilize that funding that the board has approved for $500,000. So that'll be for this year. And then next year, next summer, the summer of 2014, we're looking at about $1.3 to $1.4 million in funding for preventative maintenance. So we're increasing the budget by almost $1 million within the course of 1 year, which is really significant, and we're pleased. We still need to get to about $5 to $7 million per year. So we have a ways to go, but we're chipping away at this challenge that we have.
Sure. Well, no, it is progress.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And yeah, some of our roads do need attention. It's nice that we're finding the money to do some of the work anyway.
Right. And the work is, these are private contracts for preventative maintenance, things like chip seals and slurry seals and overlays. So it's different. We've talked about the clarification between the different road funds we have. We have a road crew, which is county staff, and I call that the Band-Aid work. They do the really core
potholes,
pothole filling, striping, crack sealing, the kind of basic maintenance, we call that routine maintenance of roads, to make sure that cars don't run into each other, that they don't pop your tire in a pothole, snow plowing to make sure that, and sanding during the winter months. So that's the routine maintenance. This side of the house, which is really where we need more money, is the preventative maintenance side. Again, private contractors that we hire to go out and do this work that really extends the useful life of a road. So it's critical. We're also in the process now of putting together the road funding task force that the board has talked about to look at additional funding. So we've identified now about $1.5 million, $1.4, $1.5 million for preventive maintenance next year. Got to get that up to about $5 million within the next few years. So we're going to bring together a group of residents in the community, a broad coalition of folks who can help develop some solid, reasonable solutions to getting to that $5 million number.
Great. Well, also at that May 2nd meeting, we'll shift gears to ordinances now. An ordinance was introduced by commissioners replacing the existing burning restrictions here in Douglas County, and also introduced a new burn code.
Right, and this is, for East Fork Fire and Tahoe Douglas fire districts, it completely replaces the existing chapter and ordinance for burning restrictions, chapter 8.12 in the county code, and it establishes requirements for various categories of open burning, enforcement and penalty provisions. Some of this is the result of, first of all, the year-round wildland fire season that we now have. We've seen this the last couple years with a low snowpack and heavy fuels and conditions that are really ripe for wildland fires. And we saw in TRE last year, it was a residential burning, open burn that was going on, and that really caused that fire. And so the fire districts are looking at this to replace the existing code in its entirety again, and establish really a broader range of permits for open burning, enforcement penalties, and just have some greater control over that. So it does not impact the agricultural community. We're closely understanding that it's critical for them to have the ability to permit for burning, and it still will be allowed for residential parcels as well, but just with some greater restriction and enforcement.
Now, this is personal on my part, but I understand the agricultural burning. I mean, the ag people need to do their burning, but why do residential people need to burn? I mean, we have trash pickup and all that. I mean,
we do. I think we're still a relatively rural community. It's typically allowed, but I think that's what brought this on. Is we've got to a point where it really became challenging for the fire districts to control it. And when you allow open burning for small residential lots without a lot of enforcement and control, and then you have situations like in TRE where you have a major wildland fire that causes millions of dollars in damage, which impacts taxpayers, you start to rethink, we really need, if we're going to allow this, we really need to have better restrictions and greater enforcement. So the board unanimously approved it. I mean, again, I think the reality is we've allowed this for periods of time. People, it's a benefit that many residents in Douglas County utilize, and I think the fire districts recognize that there's value to allowing residents to do it, but we need to have greater restriction and enforcement.
Okay. Also, Commissioners heard a presentation and update on projects and activities of the Northern Nevada Development Authority. What's going on over there?
Yeah, good update, and I think some really positive news from NNDA. This is our economic development entity that represents both Douglas County, Carson City, Lyon County, and Story County. A lot of focus on California and the sort of view of California as an anti-business type environment with growing taxes and regulations there, and we're hearing that from businesses that they feel that the regulations and taxes in California are becoming overly restrictive and they need to look at alternatives. And so Nevada has really carved out a niche for itself in terms of our low tax structure and our business friendly environment. And in addition, Douglas County, as we have said many times, is one of the lowest tax communities in the state of Nevada.
Right.
We have the 8th lowest, I think it's the 6th lowest overlapping property tax rate. We have the 8th lowest sales tax rate. We have a utility operator fee, a gas tax that are all lower than Carson City, Washoe County, and Lyon. And we have no business license in Douglas County. So all of these things create really a business-friendly environment, in addition to generally, I think, a local government that attempts to work with businesses. We do have some challenges with the number of independent entities that are providing service, like water and sewer, and the challenges that businesses face when they come in and they have to pay significant hookup costs to water and sewer. That's a big hurdle for them, and it's additionally a challenge because typically they have to work with several different entities where they're used to working with one local government entity there. So I say that's an issue that we need to work on and begin to improve. But we've had 10 companies that have relocated to Douglas County and 5 additional companies within about the last year to year and a half. We have 5 additional companies that are pending, 372 465 direct jobs, 372 indirect jobs, and we expect another over 1,000 new direct and indirect jobs in 2013. We're also pursuing with NNDA an 8-week campaign to attract interested businesses from California to Nevada. We're focusing on the Santa Cruz, San Francisco area to Reno and the Carson Valley, particularly pushing on 200 businesses in Stockton, in the Stockton area, and focusing on what we all know is great about Douglas County, in addition to the things we said, is safe community, high quality of life, business-friendly regulations, and low taxes. So I think generally we still have a ways to go to get back the 3,000 net jobs that we lost from 2009 through today. But I think we're making progress, and ultimately I believe that our local economy is going to be stronger as a result, because we're building a more diverse economy, diversifying away from just a purely gaming industries and into a lot of manufacturing, technology, bioscience, engineering type jobs. So generally positive news there.
Well, that's kind of a good idea, targeting the communities in California that are bankrupt.
Right.
That definitely cannot help a business climate at all.
Yeah, it's not good when you have bankrupt communities that have a high tax structure and significant number of regulations and hurdles that businesses have to overcome. So I think it is important to remember that we are a business friendly. We still have, again, improvements that we can make in our processes and hurdles that businesses have with the number of entities that are here. But we have a great community. Douglas County is the most beautiful place in Nevada.
I think agree with you more.
I think that's clear, and arguably, in the West. And so we have that in addition to a climate that's really positive for businesses to be here. So we'll keep pushing, and we look for more positive movement on the job and business relocation front.
Great. Also, at the May 2nd meeting, there was a request for an ordinance. This is for a zoning map amendment to change a 1-acre parcel from public facilities to single-family residential, and that was denied by commissioners, and that property is located on Foothill Road.
Right. It was denied 3-2. There were some concerns from the board members that opposed that move, that cited the lack of compatibility with surrounding lots and the driveway egress out of Foothill Road. It's right at about Centerville and Foothill Road. there. There were also some concerns expressed about the need for open space, and this property is currently zoned public facilities. It was, as you said, the request was to change it from public facilities to single-family residential parcels. So it was denied on those bases, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Okay. Commissioners also adopted an ordinance for a development agreement between Micah Drive LLC in Douglas County. This modifies the cottages at Indian Hills. That's a planned development. And what was the core of all that?
Yeah, the board approved it. You know, this is a 48 single-family residential lots that was approved in about 2009. And we've seen a number of these types of requests that have come forward to modify the planned development to allow for additional phasing and additional time to record the final map. So that's essentially what this request was and what the board approved, to modify the cottages at Indian Hills planned development phasing plan to allow the project to develop in 3 phases and to extend the time to record the final maps for phases 2 and 3 to July 7th, 2017 and to July 7th, 2018 respectively. So that's the action that the board took, and we'll see the progress that happens from that plan development in the future.
Okay. Also, another ordinance, this was adopted by commissioners, amending the Douglas County Code and the Minden town boundary by annexing portions of 4 separate parcels totaling approximately 52.77 acres into the town of Minden.
Right, and this is this was requested by the town of Minden, Mike Pegram, on behalf of Carson Valley Inn and Douglas County, to assist with property that is currently owned by Douglas County and currently owned by CVI. And it wasn't a transfer of property; it was simply annexing that property within into the town of Minden. It's the Seaman Ranch area right behind the Carson Valley Inn. Portions, again, that are owned by Carson Valley Inn and by Douglas County, and there's a trail that is planned to be developed, a paved trail that would be developed through the Seaman Ranch that would connect to the Carson Valley Inn. Really nice connection trail that will go all the way through Minden and Gardnerville, and so ultimately the goal is that the town of Minden will maintain that trail and areas within the Seaman Ranch in the future, and so the properties were annexed into the town to allow the town to maintain those in the future.
Okay. Also approved by commissioners was an intrastate interlocal contract for China Springs Youth Camp to provide residential living care for boys and girls who have been adjudicated delinquent, and that was in the amount of $3,044,849.
Right, the number actually was increased, Lloyd, by the state just last week on Wednesday. So the actual number that was awarded by the state of Nevada is about $3.7 million. And so the board approved this contract, and again, it's the agreement between China Spring and the state of Nevada for the state's portion of those costs, and then each of the counties that participate and send kids to China Spring and Aurora Pines all have an allocation of costs in addition to the state funding. And again, this is for juvenile services for young people that have had run-ins with the law, and an opportunity then for them to have opportunities for rehabilitation of drug and alcohol and other issues. So it's a good news that the state of Nevada has increased that funding. One of the challenges that we have out at the China Spring facility is the number of kids that are there compared to the number of counselors and supervisors that are there. The ratio is something in the range of 1 to 18, and it needs to be something in the range of 1 to 10. And so the China Spring has really looked at additional funding from the state and from the counties to reduce that ratio and make sure that we have a proper combination of kids to adults there.
Do you know, or can you estimate the average population out there at China Spring, Aurora Springs?
Yeah, I believe it's in the range of, it fluctuates. I believe it's somewhere in the range of 40 kids at any given time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There was one more kind of housekeeping item, it looks like, associated with China Spring, and commissioners approved that, about adding a member at large from the 10th judicial district court.
Right,
Was
which
that?
is, that's in Churchill County, and so Churchill
Ah.
participates, and it was just making sure that they have
Representation.
representation on that advisory council, as all the counties who participate in that program do.
Okay. Commissioners also heard a presentation from STOP, that's Students Taking on Prevention, and they were updating the board on their smoke-free public parks campaign. How's
Yeah,
that been
you know,
going?
great. They did a great job. These are 7th through 12th grade kids in Douglas County who have participated in, the, as you said, the Students Taking on Prevention. It's a coalition between the STOP program, the high school, these 7th to 12th graders, the partnership of community resources, and this campaign in particular was for smoke-free entryway, their smoke-free entryway campaign. So what they did is they went out to parks, and primarily Lampe Park. They collected the number of cigarette butts within the park about a year ago, and they had a jar filled with these cigarette butts just in one day that they collected. They then came to the board and requested to post signs in the park that would not say no smoking. It's not a regulatory issue, but it's just an education sign that says, you know, smoking isn't good for you, it's not good for kids, you know, please refrain from smoking in parks. They went back a year later and around the same time collected the number of cigarette butts at the same location where the signs had been posted, where they had collected them a year before, and there was a fraction of the amount of cigarette butts at the time. And so really nice job. I think not only that, you know, they pursued this effort and put the signs up and it had a positive impact, but they went out and measured it, and they quantified that what they did actually had an impact. So they're now pursuing an effort to, they did a campaign to design an entry for businesses, entryway signage that would encourage people not to smoke within entryways to businesses or within a certain area around those businesses, and then they're going to work with local businesses to put those up. So great group of kids in our community doing something good to improve the health of young people and adults in the area.
No, it's great to see that, and they're like middle school and high school kids, right?
Right, yep, 7th to 12th graders.
Yeah, getting involved, that's great.
Getting
In
involved and
their
getting
community.
involved in their community. They come to the board meetings, they do presentations, and they've gone out and done really nice work out there. So it's really encouraging to see. You know, oftentimes we hear about the challenges. We talked about China Spring and Aurora Pines, and
Right.
you know, some of the challenging elements that we have with some young people, but we also have young people who are doing some really positive things here in the community. So it's good to remember that.
Okay. Also, commissioners approved Planning Commissioner Jeremy Davidson to serve on the State Land Use Planning Advisory Council. Could you give us some background on that group?
Yeah, and typically we have a planning commissioner that serves on the State Land Use Advisory, Planning Advisory Council. Bob Connor was the previous one. His term had expired. He's no longer on the Planning Commission. So Planning Commission unanimously recommended Jeremy Davidson, who's a member of the Planning Commission. This is a group of representatives statewide of counties throughout the state that come together and meet and have oversight of state lands, including the use, the public use of those lands, access, wildlife issues. The sage grouse issue in particular is one of the things that they'll be looking at for this. So that's what that group does.
Okay. Well, we actually have a little bit of time.
All right, what do you want to talk about?
Well, we want to talk about the May 16th
Okay.
meeting first, the preview.
Yep.
And you told me it's a long meeting.
It's
so,
a long meeting.
it
So
may
how
take
much
a
time
while.
do we have? Yeah, it's clocking out right now at about 6 hours. So we'll
Oh,
see if we
my.
can beat the house on on the odds on whether or not we can keep it shorter than 6 hours. But we have some important items here, and really the big ones are related to TRPA, and we've talked a lot about the South Shore Area Plan. The Tahoe Regional Planning Agency approved in December of 2012 the new regional plan update. This was over 10 years in the making, aggressively, that people were working on putting this plan together. Over 5,000 people participated in the regional plan update. Broad support from local government, businesses, residents, and the environmental community. Unfortunately, the regional plan is right now being held up in a lawsuit by the Sierra Club, and so we'll see what happens there. Despite that issue, Douglas County and the City of South Lake Tahoe have moved aggressively forward, and we're bringing forward our South Shore Area Plan at the May 16th meeting, and then again at the June 20th meeting Our goal then is to bring that to the TRPA Governing Board in July for final approval. So there are about 4 items related to, there's a resolution on the master plan amendment, and then 3 ordinances in addition to that to all begin approval of that process. The ordinances require 2 hearings, so that's why we're hearing them both on May 16th and on June 20th. And then we also have a memorandum of understanding with TRPA to take on permitting for single-family residential parcels in Lake Tahoe. So Douglas County is the only entity in the Tahoe Basin that does not do permitting for residential or commercial in the basin, and so that's a positive move. We'll also have a discussion to give direction to staff concerning Chapter 5.08 of the Douglas County Liquor Code governing live entertainment endorsements. Some questions from some business establishments, particularly in the town of Genoa, who'd like to see the ability to have more outdoor live entertainment throughout the course of the year, particularly in the summer months. They're only allowed currently under the liquor code up to 4 outdoor live entertainment events. So we're going to have a discussion on that and whether or not it would be appropriate to direct staff to begin to look at revising the liquor code on that front. A number of items, letters of support to the Governor's Office on Economic Development for, I believe it's 4 different businesses that have recently relocated or are in the process of relocating to Douglas County to request state economic development incentive funds for those businesses. We'll have an item on Western Nevada Development District, the list of prioritization projects for economic development in the Western Nevada region. And then we'll have a few legislative items, a couple items that one of our commissioners has asked come forward that are going to be in front of the National Association of Counties, wanting to discuss that, and then an update on legislative matters that we've been doing over the past few months here. And so the legislature is now in its final stages.
Right.
We're in the last month of the legislative session. Everything is, for the most part, gone pretty well. They're still dealing with the money items, the budget, and so we look forward to seeing what will come forward as part of the budget discussions. And then, of course, there's Senate Bill 229, which we're tracking closely, the bill to repeal Senate Bill 271, which was the bill approved in the last legislative session in 2011, related to the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. So we've tracked that one closely. The board has taken a position opposing SB 229. There's likely there will be a compromise, hopefully, on that bill, and so we'll track that and others.
Well, sounds like a full agenda.
I didn't even give it all to you, Lloyd, so that's the majority.
There's more?
Let's leave it there.
Okay.
But that's the majority of it. So yeah, I think the liquor code discussion and the TRPA South Shore, South Shore Area Plan items will take the majority of the time, and so we're really pleased about the South Shore Area Plan and the progress that we've made very aggressively. TRPA again just approved in December, and we're just about 4 months into the year, into the calendar year, and we're bringing forward the area plan to revise. And our area plan, the South Shore Area Plan, is going to be consistent with the regional plan that TRPA has adopted. Allows for some additional uses, a resort recreation designation on some portions in the state line area. It allows for redevelopment of the built environment to improve the natural environment, the economy, and the community in Lake Tahoe. So we're really excited about that and look for continued progress there.
Okay, well, that wraps it up.
All right.
Steve, I thank you. Our
Thank
County
you, Lloyd.
Manager, Steve Mokro-Heisky. I'm Lloyd Higuera, here on the County Manager's Report, and we'll see you next time.